Anytime you lie to what is supposed to be a free public, anytime you lie to them, you are putting them at risk. That's the truth. The Biden administration lied. And right now, John Oliver is lying to you. Moving on to what we're talking about, fascism. I would argue that there are plenty of fascists in UK Parliament. And I would argue that there are plenty of fascists actually in the comedy scene, both in Europe and stateside. What do I mean by that? I mean people who would eliminate voices of dissent at a moment's notice if they had that ability. You don't judge a party or an ideological group by merely what they do now. You judge them by what they would do if they had completely unfettered power. And I think people like John Oliver, and you can use the umbrella here of big government liberals in Europe, I think they certainly qualify. I would argue that they are far more fascist than any member of the AfD, member of this administration, or certainly anyone in this studio. I want to be very clear here. As we move on in this segment, at no point am I advocating for the removal or censorship of John Oliver. I don't want to happen to John Oliver exactly what his managing company has done to us, Avalon, right? Every time we criticize him, every time we do a rebuttal, which falls squarely under fair use, we get removed. That segment gets removed because John Oliver can't handle criticism. Respect where it's due to Jon Stewart, to even, I would say, Jimmy Kimmel. They at least leave it up.
Yeah.
John Oliver has every single one removed, and it's manually done. So right now, if you are watching on YouTube, please go to Rumble and download the Rumble app. That's the best way you can stay in touch. You'll only get notifications when we are live on Rumble. It's the best way to not be beholden to an algorithm. Rumble, we own live, and none of these critiques, none of these rebuttals get to take place if not for Rumble Premium members. It's $99 annually. You can try it for $9.99 a month. Rumble Premium is Mug Club. Mug Club is Rumble Premium. That's why we don't have to worry about being banned, removed. And you know what? Neither did Dan Bongino, so that's the kind of guy I want as deputy over there at the FBI. So John Oliver is back again. I mean, he does a show once a week. It's a very easy gig and so much money that he makes. This time, as an entertainer, a comedian advocating on behalf of big tech censorship.
Tonight, let's take a look at the challenges of content moderation, how Facebook's faced them in the past, and what might have led to its new approach. And let's start with the challenges, because from the very beginning of the modern internet, there were concerns about what was on it.
Time for the latest installment of John Oliver is a big fat pussy.
I am a pussy, and that is frankly a wild thing to say. I'm telling you, I am a pussy. Oh, sorry if this is how you found out, but I'm telling you that I am a pussy. God.
Favorite singer ever.
It's pretty good.
And for those of you saying that's ad hominem, yes, it's true because it's true. But let me explain to you the context. I use the term, I do use it as a pejorative. Mm-hmm. And by that, I mean that he embodies all of the negative feminine qualities that one would imagine, just like when you call someone a prick, it's a gendered pejorative, in that he is a gossip and he won't deal with confrontation head on as a man should, and he refuses to not only face criticism or face the people he accuses, but he actually has them removed from the public square. I think that is quite cowardly, and I think it makes him a... Now... What? Some of these clips are going to be shorter because maybe they can argue that the clips are too long. So maybe this will stay on YouTube, right? Right, Avalon, John Oliver, come on, sack up. Here's the first claim that he makes here. All references available, link in the description as we do every single show, something John Oliver may want to consider. Please peruse them. Makes the claim that Section 230 gives platforms the ability to moderate without fear, that's why it exists.
But mostly, it allows them to moderate without fear, which is good. Because as scholars will tell you, content moderation is absolutely key to making the internet bearable.
Okay, here's the truth. That's the exact opposite of what 230 was designed to do. 230 was meant to promote speech, not to censor it. 230 allows these big platforms, big tech platforms, to be treated as de facto utility companies. So, for example, like public utilities, like your phone service. Verizon or AT&T, if you guys don't have Pure Talk yet, or T-Mobile, they can't remove you, they can't deny you service if you say, hey, I hope the AfD wins the election in Germany, even if they don't like your opinion. Why? Because that would be a violation of them being a public utility. They are not a publisher like New York Times who can moderate not only the comments, but whoever actually publishes content on their platform. So Facebook, YouTube, Google, X, they were being treated far more like a public utility. That's what 230 was designed to do, which means that comes with the responsibilities of not censoring speech. So Congress explicitly stated in Section 230, the internet offers a forum for a true diversity of political discourse, unique opportunities for cultural development, and myriad avenues for intellectual activity. Here's the really scary truth is that the left misinterprets that very narrow window of content moderation that is permitted through Section 230, and that's what they focus on. So there's a very narrow window. In other words, to say, yeah, so 230 means that you can't moderate content, that you can't censor content outside of these bounds of the law, right? And they go, well, see, that means that we actually have the right. They should be censoring content. No. That's like saying, hey, hold on a second. Yeah, of course, everyone has to be allowed unless someone's committing a crime. So no one's allowed. No, but that's not the point. Section 230 specifically limits what platforms can moderate without becoming publishers, which means they are not, once they're a publisher, they're not protected from liability.
Right.
230 protects them from liability if some, let's say, Nazi posts a comment that actually is Nazi-like. In other words, YouTube can't be liable for that. Why? Because they're a public utility. They're not censoring. So it's not their responsibility if it is used as a utility. Now, if they censor too much, that means they are effectively communicating a point of view.
Yeah.
Which means they're a publisher, like the New York Times, like Washington Post. So this is the limitation of what they can moderate. To content limited. That is, quote, obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. That's the catch-all category that the left uses, the otherwise objectionable. But it's very clear that otherwise objectionable must relate to the words that directly precede it. So let me give you an example. Opinions, for example, on politics, or even opinions that you may not like on vaccines, are not obscene, they are not lewd, they are not lascivious, filthy, or excessively violent. So otherwise objectionable cannot just apply to anything you don't like, it has to apply to the definitions that are very clearly outlined before it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And you have no recourse. That is the problem with 230, because literally you basically go 230, 230, 230, 230, all the way up to the Supreme Court, and then hope you get a first you hope it gets taken by the Supreme Courts, then you hope you get a victory.
Right.
They are hiding behind 230.
Exactly.
As well.
230 doesn't protect Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube's right. It doesn't protect their right to say you can't post a story about an mRNA injection side effect. It doesn't protect them from saying, actually, you know what, you're not allowed to post about information that suggests maybe this virus leaked from a lab. It doesn't protect them from saying, actually, you know what, we don't like the Hunter Biden laptop story, which we'll get to, so we're actually just going to ban it. As a matter of fact, that would be a direct violation, and they should be fined billions of dollars. They should be held liable immediately. Either they're a publisher or they're a platform. I have been saying it since 2012, if you want to go back far enough. Here's another claim that John Oliver makes. A comedian who doesn't believe in free speech, that conservatives were never targeted by big tech to censor.
One has been conservatives repeatedly painting normal content moderation as political persecution.
Big tech's out to get conservatives. That's not a suspicion. That's not a hunch. That's a fact.
We've seen the big tech has been censoring us.
The American people are being censored. Conservatives are being censored. The information that's flowing to the American people is being censored. It's just the bottom line.
Okay, that is obviously all bull.
Well, if it's obvious, provide your references.
Yeah.
If it's so obvious, that's right. You never do, aside from when we see an overlay that says Salon or Slate. Here's the truth. Conservatives are very clearly targeted and censored. Again, this is empirically available through the data. They're banned at rates that are about 4.5 times the rate of those on the left. Okay, let me give you some quick examples. President Trump banned from Twitter, Facebook in 2021. 2022, you had Dan Bongino banned from YouTube, now going to be deputy over there at the FBI. Let's just give you some examples with us, right? The Twitter files named us as a platform, as a profile that was to be censored, throttled on their platform. Obviously, these Twitter files revealed censorship against the 2020 election, questioning it, the COVID lockdowns, the COVID vaccines. In 2019, we were at the center of the Vox apocalypse, where it was proven that we didn't violate any policies, but we were just demonetized, which is why we need your support over there at Rumble Premium, because we don't make any ad dollars on YouTube. Do you think that that might be some kind of censorship if you allow people to espouse outright communist views on YouTube and be monetized, but you demonetize, ergo throttle, shadow ban a channel that expresses, I don't know, pro-life views, that there are only two genders, those kinds of views, that maybe it wasn't the most free and fair election of all time, those kinds of views? Also, I believe in 2019, it might have been 2018, that's how I met my half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond, Engadget published an article about demonetization. There was also an article about Facebook throttling. Specifically, people named the Chris Kyle Foundation, Ted Cruz for President, Breitbart, and yours truly. That's how I met my lawyer. We ended up handling that out of court. Notice we're still on Facebook. It was so bad, just us right here. I don't know if you think that we've said anything objectionable enough to warrant being deplatformed, to warrant being demonetized, to warrant being shadow banned, throttled, to the point where we've had to create our own separate platform. People said, create your own YouTube. Well, we have. Everyone migrate over to Rumble. YouTube is dead. It got so bad that the known Marxist Senator Hirono was outraged that we weren't completely banned. It wasn't enough.
YouTube dragged its feet before taking any action against conservative commentator Steven Crowder, despite being informed of Crowder's 2-year homophobic harassment campaign against journalist Carla Maza. When YouTube did finally take action, it took the half measure of removing advertisements from Crowder's videos rather than removing him from the platform entirely.
Advertisement.
And also,
No, it's
Carlos,
advertisements.
we called Carlos Maza a lispy queer. I can say that, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. Not Carla.
Yeah.
Maza. You just trans.
You just dead named the lispy queer.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
He also called himself queer, joked about
He
his
did.
lisp, and I think his handle was Gay
Gay
Wonk.
Wonk.
And he wasn't the only person at Vox who we criticized.
And it wasn't a campaign. It's more of an adventure.
Also, I didn't just say lispy queer. I said fairy,
Yes.
sprite, I believe light in the loafers. There are a bunch of terms that were used.
Yes, there
they
are.
were all fun.
Who was your campaign manager for
Yeah.
this campaign that you put together?
And actually, though, here's the good news. We will always welcome on voices
Yeah.
that differ from our own. So after 6 years have passed, we're going to allow bygones to be bygones, and hopefully we have her on the line. We actually have Senator Hirono on the line to comment right now. Senator Hirono, welcome back to the show.
Hello, Stephen. Now, before we begin, I want to remind you that this conversation is on the record.
Okay.
And I will hold you accountable.
Well, I expect no less from you. I wanted to talk with you today about how you encouraged the outright censorship ban on me 6 years ago.
Well, maybe we can get together sometime and, discuss things further.
I don't know if that has any...
We can have a picnic under the stars where you can give me a hot lunch.
Okay, Senator. I don't
My
think...
lunchbox is ready for you, Stephen.
Senator, that is unbecoming of a public servant.
It's hot and steamy in there, just how you like
Oh,
it.
my God.
I'll bring some salad.
Well, I like a good
And
salad.
then you can toss it for me.
That's not the definition. That's not, has nothing to do with the lunch.
Hey, Steven, do you like poke bowls?
Actually, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how to answer it, but I do actually.
I'm not hearing an answer to my question.
Okay, yes. Poke bowls are delightful. I'm a fan.
I'll let you poke my bowl, Steven.
Senator, that is completely inappropriate. I don't
You
even.
can be my bucking bronco.
No.
Would you like to give me a Cleveland Steamer?
This has nothing to do with what we're discussing. Stop.
And then you can finish with a dirty
I don't want to do that. No,
sentence.
Tim, cut it.
Steven, I'm horny.
Ah!
That took a turn.
She's a saucy mix.
The next claim that John Oliver makes and they love to do this. They try and steer into it to cut it off at the pass, right? Conservatives are not being censored. They are. The Hunter Biden laptop was inconsequential. No, it wasn't. So he tries to say the Hunter Biden laptop was actually never censored. You dreamt that.
Back in 2020, while Trump was president, social media sites got a warning from the FBI to look out for hack and leak operations before the election. Then, in October, the New York Post ran a story based on files from a laptop they claimed belonged to Hunter Biden, which had been given to them by Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani. Facebook and Twitter were wary of the story. Twitter briefly didn't allow people to post links to it, and Facebook allowed the story to be seen and shared, but limited the article's reach, only to remove that restriction soon after.
Just that wordplay. Here's the truth. It was real, it was authentic, and it would have made a difference in the 2020 election. I love it. They were wary of the article. Okay, why? Well, because the FBI reached out to them. They allowed it to be posted, but they reduced its reach. Okay, so it doesn't exist. Just think about that for a second. They reduced its reach.
Yeah.
So if you post something that is incredibly important, as far as information to the American public, and these people, at the behest of the FBI, decide they're just going to limit its reach, you can post it, but your own subscribers, your own viewers can't see it. Does it exist?
Yeah, this was a massive story. Everybody was talking about, all of a sudden, gone.
Yes.
And then a week later, they're like, all right, you can post it again. Wait a minute, why don't you just unfreeze the other post with all the likes, all the mentions, all of the algorithmic favorite stuff that's going on with this thing? No, you can repost it. That's just as good. No, it's really not.
The reason that it wasn't being allowed to spread was because the FBI, for example, met at least 5 times with Google alone prior to the 2020 election. 5 times the FBI met with them. While the FBI had the laptop and they knew that it was legit.
Yep.
They had already procured the laptop. It had already been authenticated. They knew that it was real, and they met 5 times just with Google. I'm willing to bet dozens of times with the heads of big tech to ensure that it wasn't allowed to be a story that the American public knew about. By the way, this is the laptop that Mayor Giuliani authenticated for the first time, showed it to the world live on our show. Have you seen the pictures?
This guy.
Have you seen the pictures of him with the crack pipe?
John Wright, I have.
Oh, wow. Does he at least look like cool?
Unfortunately, I can't show them to you right now, but this is the hard drive they're on right there.
Gosh.
Oh, my word. And Mark, I didn't know what I was looking at. I had a tiny monitor. I'm like, okay.
John Wright, I do.
And people now saying about Mark Zuckerberg, they're saying, oh, well, he's just doing this now. He's trying to appease the people in power. Well, okay, sure. But if he's trying to appease the current administration in power by saying, we are not going to censor opposing points of view on Facebook anymore, that's different from him having to appease those in power under the Biden administration. And he admitted to doing that. He admitted to being pressured by Biden to censor content as it related to COVID, as it related to elections, and he apologized for it. In other words, the pressure being applied is not for the same reason. One applied pressure to censor. One has applied pressure to no longer censor. Can you spot the difference as far as how relevant this was? Again, no one could reach it at that time, and everyone thought for a good period of time, what he omits, people thought it was a hoax. Right? People thought that the story was a hoax.
Yeah.
It was Russian disinformation. That's what our intelligence agencies said. If they knew at that time during the election that it was real, that it was Hunter Biden's laptop, that the content in there was authentic, 17% of Biden voters would have changed their vote or not voted, and that changes the outcome of the 2020 election. It's not that it's the only example. It's the only example where the left was caught irrefutably, and we know that just that one example would have changed the outcome, changed the course of American history. That's why we point to it, because you'll dismiss everything else. Say, that's clearly bullshit as far as censorship of conservatives, 4.5 times the rate. As far as demonetization, as far as throttling, Twitter files, Facebook leaks, you'll dismiss it. This is one you can't dismiss. So what they do is they skim past it.
Yeah.
Here's another claim that he makes. And this one's just, he doesn't really have a basis for it, and I'll get to why, but that conservatives actually need to be censored because they're more likely to spread misinformation.
First, to the extent their posts do get flagged more, that's probably because conservatives tend to be more likely to spread political misinformation according to numerous empirical studies.
Okay, here's the truth. No, they aren't. Now, I'll start with the exact same study that Oliver cited. Now, he doesn't publicly post them, so we have to go find them. It says, it is not yet known whether conservatives are more prone to spread misinformation across virtually all situations.
Well, that's
his own study.
But that doesn't make it obvious.
Right.
I didn't read to page 2, Stephen.
I can't be bothered to read what my intern sent me. Other studies, meaning all other studies, show that sources of misinformation come from both the left and the right at similar rates. Here's the other thing that he's not mentioning to you. Those who determine what is and what is not misinformation, the fact-checking sites, we now know are radically left. And they don't rate leftist misinformation as misinformation at all. Politico, Washington Post, AP, Reuters. Keep in mind, these are the same places who didn't rate it as misinformation when those on the left were saying Ilhan Omar didn't marry her brother. They had the marriage certificate. They didn't rate Russia collusion as disinformation. You know what? Perfect example, Hunter Biden laptop. It was never rated misinformation, at least not initially, when the story emerged that it was Russian disinformation. That was, in fact, misinformation. It was a real laptop that revealed criminal activity of the Biden family. The left said it's coming from, it's Russian propaganda.
Right.
These fact-checking sites didn't label that misinformation. So the fact that we have any studies that show actually it's a split is kind of surprising to me, because who's going to call the left on misinformation? Who's going to conduct that study?
They define it. That's my problem with hate speech, misinformation, disinformation. They define what that is and then go, see, you fit in the definition. Of course I do.
Right.
You drew me into it. Like, you drew the circle around us and said, that is misinformation and disinformation. And by the way, you forgot 2022, not even being able to cover the midterms because YouTube kicked us off.
That's right. YouTube kicked us off. We weren't, biggest election stream of all time. We weren't able to cover it.
Yeah.
I believe that because you quoted the CDC.
Probably.
That was one of them?
No, that was one of them. But Carrie Lake was the one, I think she was talking about her own election, which she ended up winning, the runoff.
Yeah,
Or not
that's
the runoff,
right.
but the primary.
Right. Yeah. By the way, as far as misinformation, references available, this very program was rated as completely untrustworthy, not because of facts, but because of jokes.
Look at where we are.
We are worse misinformation than Russia Today.
Yeah, they're like, no, they said they had Mazie Hirono on the show, but I think it was a guy.
Yes. We reached out to them. They said, well, the insults actually make it less trustworthy.
Humor. They're like,
really? So that's what justifies it. Okay, well, here's another fact check. You fascist cock. How about that? There we go. We just moved closer to misinformation, even though we're the only ones who actually provide the information publicly available. Yep, we make jokes. There's ad hominem. It's childish. We insult. Guess what? We also hold all of our information out for everyone to see. Go check the ones today. Largely leftist sources. Just as left as John Oliver to make our point. Here's another claim that he makes, as though it's relevant. He says, well, it doesn't matter because there are 3 times as many conservative influencers as liberal ones.
3 times as many explicitly conservative news influencers as liberal ones on the site.
Okay, here's the truth. Yeah, that's in spite of the left, not because of it. Sure, we're here, but we weren't here for the 2022 election, and we have been demonetized, unlike those on the left. So those on the left, like yourself, are favored in the algorithms. We're technically allowed to be here when we're not suspended, but we're just demonetized and shadow banned, which, is what you call fairness. And by the way, the reason that conservatives moved online early on, it's the same reason that the only way that you know about Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton is because of Matt Drudge, the Drudge Report.
Yeah.
All the other major publications, mainstream publications, had that. They had that information. They had access to it. They punted it. Matt Drudge didn't. Okay? That's the only reason you know about that story. Because he went online. Because no one would cover it on ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC. No one would touch it. So conservatives, knowing that they wouldn't get a fair shake in legacy media, immediately jumped on online content for the same reason that Joe Rogan created his podcast online. Because they didn't play well with legacy media. So I would expect alternative media, certainly when it's budding, to, be a platform or platforms that conservatives would seek out, because they weren't allowed to be on any platform before that. And we've done so many segments on this, every single study ever conducted or examination audit of the finances shows that mainstream media has been left-leaning across all of Western civilization to the tune of 90-something%. And then what people on the left said is, Well, hold on a second. You can go. No one's silenced it. You just can't get on these networks. Okay, we went online. So no one's saying you can't. No one's saying you can't be online. You just can't be on YouTube. You can't be on Facebook. You can't be on X. Go and make your own internet. Well, we did. Yeah. We did. And then Truth Social gets banned by governments. And then Rumble gets banned by governments. Yep. We migrated from YouTube, never should have had to Rumble. And then governments still try to ban Rumble. And not just governments, but Diageo and advertising agencies say, hey, Rumble, unless you remove Louder with Crowder, we will never advertise. We will render your entire company financially insolvent. Does that actually sound like go and make your own platform? They constantly move the goalposts.
Yeah.
The only thing that's consistent is they don't want voices with which they disagree.
Exactly. They don't have control of the space. That's what they want. You're right. We created it because they owned all of media. All of it. All of the pillars of media were owned by the left. All right, we're going to go over here. You're just mad that we went to the medium that more people watched than you. Right. You're pissed off that we saw where the puck was going, like you like to say, and we went there and did a better job than you guys. All we're saying is don't screw it up. It's fine. Come in here and have your bad ideas so that we can point and laugh at it. John Oliver, never go away.
Please.
Please don't go away.
Please.
Fantastic to debunk you.
I still miss the days of Samantha Bee.
You do?
No.
It was fun.
Oh.
Laziest woman in show business. Sorry. I mean, beautiful and brave.
Where's the Lispy queer women?
Here's the next claim that John Oliver makes. That, well, here's another justification, I should say, that there was too much COVID misinformation out there. And so actually, the Biden administration and big tech, they had to step in and stop it for, the good of the public.
Right. And around that same time, he was also being yelled at by Biden's White House because as the COVID vaccine was rolling out, a lot of misinformation was circulating on Facebook. Biden himself said at one point of Facebook that they're killing people.
Okay, here's the truth. We got banned for quoting the CDC death statistics on toddlers, comparing the flu versus COVID. Mm-hmm. We gave you the table from the CDC.
Yep. California's numbers for the last 10 years.
I would ask you, how are we killing people? How are we killing people in saying that far more children, I believe under the age of 5, die from the flu every year than total have ever died from COVID? How are we killing people? I would argue that you are putting people at risk by lying to them for political expediency. So he says Biden was concerned about people dying. Okay, we quoted the CDC, we were removed, suspended. Please make the case. There are hundreds more like them.
How about a governor and doctors from some of the best medical institutions around the world, Governor DeSantis, being removed from YouTube just for talking about it?
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yep. Well, here's the other truth, is that the Biden administration launched an unprecedented, in the United States, massive online censorship campaign, even creating a department. The only reason that department didn't last more than, I believe, 3 months is because people on alternative platforms were able to cover the corruption of the department. They even included the kind of content that needed to be censored. Any evidence that the government may have mishandled the epidemic. I don't know if you know this, more COVID deaths under Biden than Donald Trump. How many lives did he save? He came in starting on third base. Already had the vaccine, the mRNA injection. Already had the lockdowns, the flattening of the curve. Already had all of the information. We'd already done the social distancing. People were wearing masks.
Support of the media?
Yeah. How did Biden end up with more deaths under his watch? Can you explain that one to me? If he was so busy saving lives? Hey, maybe because at that point in time, information that actually could help people, like, I don't know, the death tables from the CDC were being censored. Think about it. This is the issue, is when you censor based on political expediency, guess what? You do so and you have to place it behind this veneer of public safety. You actually put the public at risk. Anytime you lie to what is supposed to be a free public, anytime you lie to them, you are putting them at risk. That's the truth. The Biden administration lied. And right now, John Oliver is lying to you. And he won't allow himself to ever be called on those lies. This is not ignorance. This is proactive lying. I would argue this borders on propaganda. He will never put himself in the arena to defend the lies because, as we have said, John Oliver is a big old pussy.
I am a pussy, and that is frankly a wild thing to say. I'm telling you, I am a pussy. Oh, sorry if this is how you found out, but I'm telling you that I am a pussy. God.
Hey, if you liked this video, you can comment or hit like. And you know that because you and I were a lot alike. Probably like dogs. I like dogs. If you like cats, I don't want you here. I'm not making videos for cat people. I told you, if you're a cat, I don't want you here. I'm not doing it. Not doing it for cat people. Dog person, click there. Cat person,